is episode 427 of This Is Whole Life, and it's good to be home.
Welcome back, Randy.
Thank you so much.
Don't lie, you want another week of vacation. You called me up. You called me up and you're like, Ken, please.
Yeah.
Lucas is doing such a good job. Can I have another week away?
Can I have another week?
Very thankful that you're back.
The last night of our trip.
Of course, that makes me sound bad, like I didn't give you another week or something.
No. Ken was like, sure, take as much time as you want.
Lucas is trying to...
He's doing just fine without you here. The last night, I should say, my family and I were going on vacation. We took the auto train up the East Coast to Virginia, and then we meandered our way over to Niagara Falls, and on our way back home.
She had some very nice video of Niagara Falls, too.
Yeah, and that was just
the staff this morning. It was really good.
Yeah, it was just the horseshoe part, but there was a ton, like standing under the falls, you're just getting the sheer power of the water is just mind-boggling. If you've never been there, would recommend. Actually, getting in the park is free. You do not need to pay, but if you want to go on the boat and other excursions, you do have to do that. But you can pretty much see whatever you need to see.
But you're paying $12 for your postcard.
Yeah, you are. and they do give you this really, really cheap, doesn't work very well, but this kind of poncho thing. It just fills up with water on the inside, like the mist.
The park gives you that, or the ride on the boat, or?
Well, you pay for it because it's a ride on the boat, and they also give you if you do the Wind of the Cave, where you go down underneath the American Side Falls, and there's the rocks, and it just creates this mist that you're like, I have it around my neck and my head. Where's the water coming from? And you look up, and it's a balloon like a dress, and it's all just billowing up, and it's on the inside. And pretty soon you're like, oh, man, I'm soaked all the way through. So I don't know why I'm wearing this, but it looks kind of cool. And they recycle them. So if you're worried about that, they do take care of that as well. But anyway, I'm sick of living out of hotel beds.
Hey, whoa. The sermon this week was about travel. We're not sick of traveling.
No, not sick of traveling.
But he did mention about greater appreciation for home. At the end.
Wow. Lucas, look at you.
Lucas does want me back. Thanks, my friend. My friend. No, you end up with, I would say, if you're going to do the auto train, everyone's been asking us because they knew we were going to do it. Tell us about the auto train. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It's a lot of fun. Get the estate room. It's like $250 more, and you'll have much more room when you want to hang out.
The estate room. That sounds.
Yes. Well, we had rooms across the hall, so like if you opened the door, like we could see the kids next to us, and then you have two seats that face you, and then when those pull out into a bed on the bottom, and then the bunk comes down at the top. If you get the estate room at the end of the car, you get a couch and you get two chairs and you have a little bit more room to spread. You have a sink in there that you can do whatever you need with the brushing your teeth, whatever, because you sleep in it, or you are supposed to sleep. I will just say go to Walmart, buy one of those blow up air mattresses for $20. And you'll thank me because you cannot sleep on those beds. They are hard as a rock. Nobody slept. And so when we got to Virginia, I was a little bit worried that we were going to implode as a family just from lack of sleep. And you know how it is. Everybody's jammed in the car. They haven't slept. They're hungry. And yeah.
I feel like the first 24 hours of a vacation are always like the most dangerous, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like the time where everybody's like coming off of their whatever, you're all amped up from 4 months of 6 months or whatever it is of no vacation, and you're like, and it's the first time you're like spending like that much time together.
What constitutes? This was a question that you don't think you covered. What constitutes a vacation? I mean, is a long weekend, like if you do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, is that a vacation or is that
I was really talking more about travel than vacations, but I guess the two go hand in hand at times. So what does constitute? That's a good question. I feel like what somebody told me a while ago is that if you really, really want to have a really relaxing vacation, it needs to be a minimum of 10 days.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Because they said basically the first 3 to 5 days, all your adrenaline levels and everything are leveling out. There's something. Anyway, I might be completely making this up, but that's my memory of reading something or talking to somebody that it takes about 3 to 5 days for you to actually kind of settle into the vacation mode.
In. I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It seems like it was
I mean, I'm willing to test it out and let you know.
Yeah.
All right, Melanie, you've got the 1 day. Lucas, you've got 5.
Randy, you're in the basement.
You're coming back from vacation. You're already done.
You're done. Don't even.
I'll go ahead and take 3 weeks. We'll see what.
how this all
We'll
plays
see
out.
how
Come
it
back
works
together
out,
and
yes.
compare.
Well, I did catch this past weekend. We were in the car. I want to say no, we were not in the car. We were eating lunch at a little, probably the best. And we found out later it was a chain, but it's a cafe. I'll have to look on my social media posts. Can't remember. It was called something Little Dairy, Little River Dairy, something like this. But their claim to fame, according to them, in 1904, I want to say, was when they started, and they invented the banana split.
No.
Yes,
Wow.
the restaurant where the banana split was invented.
Come on.
That's what they said.
I mean, that's better than Valley Forge.
Well,
Lucas decided to take a drink of his beverage a little at the wrong time there. He nearly watch out for that soundboard, Lucas.
it was close to Valley Forge, like yeah.
No, not close. Banana split. I mean,
And they made their own
freedom
ice cream.
ice cream. I mean,
But don't those go hand in hand?
oh, well played, sir. Well played.
So we did check in on the service, and I was like, I kind of feel like I'm not working. I'm actually attending church, and that should be okay, right? Even though we work at a church, we should be able to do that. So we did check in once, and saw everybody was doing just fine without us. So we turned it off and went on our way. But you had ice cream on your trip, and I was like,
Yeah.
I never heard. Have you told that story here before about the cards and the? Because I'm like,
Have I told it before? I don't know. Have I?
I don't.
Rochelle said I retold a story. I don't know which one.
Which one it
I
was.
forgot to ask her which one. I was like, yeah, I did. I'm sure I did. I retell stories all the time.
But I wanted to just say that is like one of the most genius ideas for
Yeah,
getting your
I
kids
agree.
involved.
I agree.
And like pack up the car on a Friday. We're leaving, getting out of Dodge, and what car? With Uno cards, like
Yeah.
whoever has the highest card, we're turning that direction.
For those who are listening to podcasts, they may or may not have been Uno cards.
It always works better for the message if they're Uno cards.
I just
though.
want people to be able to concentrate.
Why would Ken have a deck of cards in the car? They're like, I get you. Don't get them sidetracked.
They were actually playing. I asked Kyle about this later because I was like, anyway, she said they were, they play war,
Yeah.
with cards, and so that they had those in the back, and that's how we decided. Because what I couldn't remember was whether we were using cards or whether we were doing rocks, paper, scissors, and the loser, we went the way the winner
went.
I can't remember. Their memory was that it was the card deck, and whoever got the highest card, we went that direction.
Well, I was impressed that you ended up in Paducah, Kentucky.
That was so.
I mean, I've been to Paducah.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend who I worked with for years who grew up in Paducah, Kentucky. So I can tell you some quality people come. Kathy Kelly, if you happen to be listening, it's good stock that comes from Paducah.
We had, like I said, I would never have chosen up
it, yeah.
till that moment when I heard about Paducah. I never would have chosen to go there, but it's a really, really neat town. I really liked it. It was nice. Really nice Riverwalk. Bunch of murals along the Riverwalk. Really interesting.
It's got a good vibe.
Great ice cream.
We went to
I don't
Ithaca,
think they
New York.
apparently they didn't invent the banana split, but they did.
Well,
they do a good
not
job.
everybody can be that cool.
No.
I mean, not to say that
I see what you're
Kentucky's
doing
not
with
cool.
cool there.
Cool. So tell us more about Christians and Manure. What was the?
So this is a.
I found that interesting.
This is a Carl Hafner. The Carl Hafner quote from when he was pastoring out at Walla Walla University Church, and he I think it's from that. He might have even put it in one of his books. I can't remember, but basically, he said that Seventh-day Adventists are like manure, spread out. They fertilize the world. Piled together, they just stink.
Just stink a little. Yeah. Well, it made perfect sense, and the funny part was listening to last week's podcast, and then hearing the message while you're on vacation, traveling, and you see some of the families that are having difficulties with
Traveling together.
Oh man, and this poor we stopped at we were at Niagara Falls, and we're just like I don't want to go on the boat. I do not want to take this Made in the Mist tour. I'm done. I've been soaked for hours. I don't care anymore. I don't want to do it. But
this is you.
This is me personally.
Okay. All right.
So then it's like, well, Dad, we're hungry. Oh, we're hungry. Of course we're hungry because you're always hungry, right? When you go. So okay, so we stop at the thing and paid $6.85 for a kale salad that would fit all inside this little coffee mug. And it's just tiny. So we're going to get a little food. And this poor gentleman next to me, he has 6 kids. And his wife is in the bathroom with the baby.
Oh, boy.
Meanwhile, his daughter, who is probably second to youngest.
Is the baby 6 or the baby 7?
No, that's how many kids they have.
Right, he's saying number 6 or number 7.
Oh, the baby is number 7.
Wow.
And number 6. The second, so he's got the next one in the stroller. She's probably number 5.
Ooh.
And she's sitting there, and he reaches over to help his son eat whatever it was, chicken fingers, French, I don't know, piece of pizza. And daughter falls out of the stroller, lands right on the floor. It's face first, and you're just like, oh, Lord, have mercy on this poor girl. Like, please let, teeth.
Yeah.
So everything's fine, but she's screaming, and he's trying to hold, now the other kids are scared, and and then of course Emily's looking across. She's like, Dad, she's crying, and I'm like, yeah, that one hurt. You could, you can feel it, and they're having this struggle. And Mom comes out, and she gives him. I can see her coming from the bathroom way across the lobby, like, I leave you alone for 30 seconds, right? And he's just like, and he's got one in his arm. He's got the other one trying to console. He's trying to feed the others. And at the end, they got everybody calmed down. And it was, there was some tension. And I just walked over and I gave him a hug and I'm like, I see you. I'm like, you're doing a good job, Dad. And he kind of teared up a little bit and he's like, thanks. Appreciate that. And it was like, so you see,
look at you being good manure.
Try because I'm like, we've all been there where all the stuff you talked about, being flexible, having a good attitude, having an open mind, and not being that, the people are the special things about the places. And clearly they were travelers. I don't want to disparage too much the city of Niagara, New York, but bro. That place.
But they have a great waterfall.
They do, but I'm like, if you actually made a city around it, people might come and stay. Like that, it was like a ghost town. It felt like somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania that used to be really, and maybe this is what it was. I don't know the history of Niagara, but there was nothing there. And everything was boarded up and painted. And they tried to make murals to make things look, but when the sidewalks have grass 3 or 4 feet high downtown, it's a little, hey, maybe nobody's hanging out here. But you had all these different people. And when you said have an open heart, the places, they're special. You'll remember going to Niagara Falls forever. I bought a mug. I will never forget until I break it. And I'll be like, hey, did we go?
Are you drinking out of it right now?
I am. Yeah, this is the new.
Nice.
It's a nice addition. I only bought one on the
For
whole
those
trip,
of you who can't see it, that would be everybody but 4 of us. It is kind of white with kind of bluish streaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little
marble.
little Niagara Falls banner.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like kind of a semicircle with Niagara Falls in kind of artsy display in that.
That was only that in one book.
And it also has a blue handle.
It does have a blue handle, yeah, and it's
It
made
has
out
a brown
of,
liquid inside.
It does. You can be the judge of what might be in there. We know what's in there. It's coffee that I also bought on the trip. That was my only expense. I'm a cheap date. Just you can take me anywhere. Just every day. I put my wife in charge of finding me a good coffee shop because I was striking out and she was.
Do you get a coffee mug everywhere you go?
I try. Only if it's cool. Okay. And then we went to Charleston and I found another one, but I didn't buy it because I'm like, one's enough.
Only one per trip, huh?
Yeah, I probably should have bought it because now.
That's why magnets work so well.
I know.
You can get.
There's something about a coffee mug, though.
I don't know.
But you like a magnet. I'm open to magnets. I'm open to magnets.
I'm open to coffee cups.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I got an extra one. I'll lend
my
you.
hot chocolate.
Well, what you put in your mug is your business. And if that's hot chocolate, then I am down. I am fully supportive of that. The other part, though, is meeting the people, like you said, the people that want to share the space with you. That was the weird part. Every other place, like we went to Ithaca, New York, and there were people that were just like, oh, we went to this waterfall, and people were, oh, hey, would you like us to take your picture? You know, they see that you're a family, and you're trying to set your phone, and I'm trying to take a picture with the button on my watch, and you don't know how many takes it took to get the one at Valley Forge that showed up in the message. Man, that was frustrating. Really, really frustrating. The wind kept blowing the camera over every time I got to the sign.
You're all smiling, though. I mean,
wasn't bad.
I would not have guessed your camera was blowing over. So.
No, every single time.
Well done.
But everywhere else, in the first person that sent us something was Tony Marino, Whole Life member. And can you guess where we were when he sent me a text message like, hey, I see you. He was, where was he?
Philadelphia.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Tony and family, big Eagles, big Philly fans. And you're right. People will share everything about their hometown. Even at the park ranger was a native there, and he was a little person, and he saw Emily was just like at the end of her day. Well, she was past the end of her day. And he's like, you need tickets to get in there on that tour. Yeah, we know. We're not going. Well, how come? He's like, she'll love it in there. It's like, yeah, we're done. We're going to go get something to eat. And he's like, what if I get you in for nothing? He's like, just join the line. And so he got us into the last tour of the day. It was after that it was closed, and he got us in for free. So everything you were talking about really was crazy how much it resonated with us, seeing people being proud of their city, being proud of their country, being proud of the things that they know that you don't, that they would just love for you to know and to share because it's special to them.
I have to say, park rangers are the coolest people.
They are.
They really are.
Yep.
I'm sure that Army Rangers are as well, Jeremy. But park rangers.
Oh no!
Park rangers,
wow.
like you saying that just reminded me of when we were in Washington D.C. and we were at the Washington Monument, and I think we made it into the line. Like I think they were cutting off for the day or something, and we had waited, and my kids started getting teary, and the park ranger was like, "Come here, come here," and ferries them up or something. It was really cool. And nice. It seems like, park rangers are cool people.
Well, Ellie's like, man.
But if you want to become a park ranger,
careful.
Make sure you become a national park ranger.
Army Rangers are cool too.
If you're having to go through boot camp, that is not the normal route for becoming a national park ranger.
You are not national park certified.
Now they may let you be one later on, but
I'm assuming the certification is a crossover.
I would think that. Yeah,
one of them is. It's funny because on our way back on the trip, after I'd listened to the message, and it was good because multiple people that I knew that lived in Philly, who I didn't know, some of them I didn't even know lived there. Well, I only knew that they lived here in Florida, but they've since moved other places. And they're like, "Oh, you're back in my old stomping grounds. I grew up in Philly." And I'm like, "Really?" So you also find out about people, and you find out about history that they have. And then maybe the other one, and I was going to ask each of you guys, like, what is your favorite vacation where, because you knew somebody, like you either went and visited somebody who had been someplace that you had never been before, and you're like, oh, I've never been to Tahiti, but my cousin is there as a student missionary, so I'm going to go visit. And like the favorite place you went, because when you were mentioning like the people that love to tell you about their place, also people that are like, oh yeah, we saw your plates were from Florida. You didn't drive all the way to the falls, did you? And we're like, well, not really. We cheated and took the train for a ways, but people will look to find you and then tell you like you should be on the other side of the river. That's like Vegas over there. There's nothing to do on this side. Go to Vegas. And we're like, okay, but I don't have a passport, so I guess we're staying on this side. So what's there to do here? He's like, absolutely nothing. They lived in Ontario. He's like, there's absolutely nothing. But what's the favorite place that you had to travel to that you'd never been, that you either stayed with someone or was on someone's recommendation and they gave you like, here's the secret list of all the stuff you should do that nobody knows about because only it'd be like visiting Ken in Guam, or now saying, hey Ken, I'm going to Guam, what are the 5 things that I need to do that like the average person, like only someone on Guam would know that this is what you need to do?
See, Randy, I was hoping you were going to say it was like, when we went to Asheville, North Carolina, where Ken grew up, and he told us all the cool places there. But Guam is also awesome.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I did that for 2 years, but I can tell my recommendations must not have been that great. Remember we went? Oh, you remember? Do you remember? No. You went with us to the pasta place, right? That I was
pasta place
2 years ago when we went to. There was a Italian restaurant that I've been.
Oh yes, yeah. And we all nearly died from explosions inside.
Yeah.
Too much food.
It was really good.
It was really good. Yeah. But see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
How do you know?
It's when you find out those. And by the way, can I also say I don't know if I don't have authorization, but it was so fun. And by the way, isn't it the most fun to actually be the person that gives the recommendation?
Oh, yeah.
And then somebody goes, because we had, I don't think I'll get in trouble, Calvin and Tammy Weiss. They were going up to I don't know, somewhere, and they're like, hey, what was that place in Nashville, that Thai place? We'd like to. And then they sent me a picture of them in there, and they're eating it, and said, oh, you're right.
Is your guy still there?
I don't know if they saw him. They didn't send a picture of him,
okay.
So I don't know if they saw Pat or not. But
Pat. Yeah. I was going to say Bob, but that was just too easy, and I knew it was wrong.
But yeah, no, but they stopped in and ate there, and it just always feels good when you make a recommendation, people like it. You're always like crossing your, I hope they really like that, because if they don't, I mean, what does that say about me?
I love it when people want to go to Lambeau, and it's like, what should we do when we're around Lambeau Field in Green Bay? And I'm just like, Kroll's West, man. Kroll's West. That's it. That's the only place you really have to go. I mean, other than the stadium. But and then like, oh man, that was the best burger I've ever had. Of course it was. That's why I sent you there.
So you asked a question a while ago that I diverted you on, so I'll get you back to where you were asking. Coolest thing that I did that I would never have had the opportunity to do is when I lived in New Zealand. The people that one of the families that I stayed with. We were up in the North Island. I was living in Auckland, and they said, hey, would you like to go on family vacation with us?
What?
To the South Island, which is where they were both from. And
nice.
I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And they said, okay, we're driving. And I would never, and I tell people this every time anybody asks me about New Zealand, this is the thing. So I said, oh, we're going to fly down there? And like, no.
Boat?
No. Well, yeah. They drove from Auckland down to Wellington, and then there's what's called the Inter-Island Ferry that goes in between the North Island and the South Island. It's probably about, I can't remember, I think it was 10 or 12 hours at least on the boat, I think. And probably about 80% of the trip is just open water, no big deal. But you really do yourself a disservice if you fly between the North Island and South Island, because the last 10 or 20% of the trip, you're coming through the fjords, and it's the mountains just straight up out of the water. There's dolphin. It is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I would never have known. I was like, oh, it's just a ferry between two islands. I mean, but it is incredible. You come into this little town called Picton on the South Island of New Zealand. And by the way, if anybody's listening and looking for somebody to be a guest speaker in New Zealand, give me a call. Trying to figure out how to finance my way down there. Anyway, but no, it was incredible. I never would have been able to go on that vacation had they not recommended it. And they took me to all the cool places that they knew about on the South Island that, they showed me the Franz Josef Glacier, just all Queenstown, Christchurch, which was one of my favorite cities. I've heard it's kind of, since the earthquakes, it's kind of taken
not so much. Yeah.
It's kind of got hurt, but it was I loved it. It was just beautiful city. It has a huge square. They have this guy called the Wizard of Christchurch. At the time I was there, I don't know if he's still alive or not. He would get up and expound on the mysteries of the universe in front and debate people in the square. And it was just had a huge life-size chess pieces, these huge things that people would play. They had the kids moving them for the older people. Anyway, very cool. Anyway.
Melanie, Annie?
Man, I've been sitting here trying to rack my brain. We traveled so much when I was a kid that we went everywhere.
Went everywhere, yeah.
So I've been, name a landmark in the U.S., I've probably
been
seen
there.
it from the back seat of a Honda Accord. But yeah, I mean, I think, we spent a lot of time in New Orleans, and so that's the piece that Tim and I really liked when people would come down to New Orleans. Oh, you got to eat here, you got to go there,
Oh,
you got to, So I think we like being the on the tour guide,
side,
and on the side of things. Yeah,
That's nice.
Although we did go to the Outer Banks with some friends one time, and that was really fun.
Was that pretty fun?
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
That's not too bad.
Some friends, huh?
Went over to Kitty Hawk and hung out on the beach, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Was it cold? Was it nice?
It was nice. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold.
It always seems like it. And I've never been.
It
there,
was
but
March,
always seems like-
and so it's
Yeah,
still
man.
off the off season. But the cool thing about that is, for those of us who are pastors, it's a great deal.
good time for.
Well, I mean the vacation rentals are like maybe about half price.
Yeah.
Sometimes even more. So it's so. For somebody like me who I don't go to the beach to lay out, that's just for me. That's suicidal.
I was just gonna say
It's
that's not.
I
fun.
love myself more than that. I mean, I get a sunburn with a strong full moon. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, so for me, I love going during the winter when it's a little bit more windy
Off-season's
and
good.
off season. It's perfect for me.
All right, Lucas. Where to? Where was it?
Oh, so for me, there's nothing fancy about this one. The first city that I visited, United States, was Orlando.
Really?
So yeah, it was back in 2008, and my parents, they were very good friends with a woman that was living here, and she said, "I'm gonna take you guys to a place that you can get as much ice cream as you want." And then
where's this place?
she took us to Sweet Tomatoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
miss Sweet
when I
Tomatoes.
got there, I was like, I'm only seeing salad. So I was shocked at first. But when I saw the ice
Is that
cream,
what they call ice cream in the United States? Is that?
exactly. But when I saw the ice cream machine, oh boy.
There you go.
It was I wanted to go back like every day.
Me too. And then
That's how I felt
closed
about it.
down.
Oh, man.
it was sad.
I feel like that's a ministry we should start.
bring
Here,
back
bring back-
petition to bring back, or
Because
just
they're
start
actually
ourselves?
they're actually open Sweet Tomatoes out in Arizona.
Oh.
Is it under their sister company? What was the other one?
That's where I'm
It
heading.
actually is Sweet Tomatoes.
Because Sweet Tomatoes, and then out west they were something else.
I thought they were Sweet Tomatoes out there
Oh,
too.
sour. What is
What
the
was the
name?
other one?
Sour Plantation.
Something plantation, yeah, because we were out with a friend, and he's from the West Coast, and we're like, hey, he's like, well, what about a buffet? We've got this great place, and he called it something, and my friend was like, oh, you mean Sweet Tomatoes? And he's like, I've never heard of Sweet Tomatoes, and when we got there, he's like,
Soup Plantation.
Soup Plantation.
Plantation,
And he's
yeah,
like,
that's
oh,
it.
yeah, this is the same place. Like, this is fantastic. And so there it was, Soup Plantation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, you get there and it's like, wow, an all-you-can-eat salad bar.
Oh man,
Woohoo.
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah.
No, it was good. All right, quick, before we move on, road trip or fly?
Oh,
I mean, I know that depends a little bit on the destination sometimes,
Yeah.
but,
Or swim.
you know,
where you can go 10 meters from one place to another.
I
I'm a
really
road-
I
like the road trip.
I like road trips too.
Yeah.
I think
So-
those are some of my most memorable vacations is the road trips.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think when you're road tripping, you get to enjoy more the location where you're at. I don't know. I just have that feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's nice just you have your own car, you're comfortable, everyone's just ready to go and do whatever. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so is Jonah the only one that's ever done the He was the first submarine guy
Yeah,
on his travels.
Jesus walked on top of the water.
Or he went underneath and got the ride.
But yeah, those as far as water, I mean, plenty of boat trips by disciples and Paul and.
But there was did any of them? As I was thinking about it, I tried to search a few things over. Was there anyone that ever took a trip for leisure? I mean, it's like, well, yeah, Jesus was walking around, but I mean,
Well,
he seemed
arguably,
to
I
be
mean,
busy.
The closest I think I can find is Mary going and visiting Elizabeth
Oh, when
she was pregnant with Jesus. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
I don't know. I think maybe when Jesus and his disciples ran into the Syrophoenician woman. I think maybe they might have been on vacation, because that's like vacation destination.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was that? Where did that happen?
Was it Tiberias? Where is that? I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
it's up on the upper left-hand side. Upper left-hand side.
On the map.
North.
You know, when you're looking at the map, it's over there.
Northwestern on the ocean. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, because that was the part where I was like, okay, and maybe afterwards I was like, well, maybe just leaving home, like going anywhere, whether that was, hey, we're going to Bethlehem to pay our taxes. So that's a trip, right?
Well,
that's something different.
And I think it is worth noting that travel is really truly a privilege, a luxury. It's not something, if you're trying to subsist, if you're just trying to get by, it's something that isn't easy to do.
Tyre and Sidon, not Tiberias. Tyre and Sidon.
Tyre and Sidon. Okay.
Yeah, that's vacation destination.
So what does it feel? So that was the other part I wanted to ask was, how do we, sometimes when you're the person who hasn't, because I was trying to think of like, when was the last time we went on actual vacation? That's why I initially asked, like, does staycation count? We count it if, like, Barco Island, we have some family that lives there, so every so often it'll be like, hey, we're going to leave early on a Thursday and do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come back on Monday, and it's just about enough time where you're like, oh, this feels so good, and then it's like, oh, nuts, it's Monday, I gotta drive the 4.5 hours, 5 hours back. Is that a vacation, and is that something that it has been for us, even when it's like, okay, well, we can't afford to go maybe on a long vacation, or for whatever reason we're too busy, we don't have time off, all those things combined, that happens kind of to everybody. But I almost feel bad when I'm the person on vacation and other people where I'm like, man, I know they'd love to go on vacation and maybe they can't right now, and you've been there, and that almost makes me it's not to steal the joy, because it's like I'm grateful, I'm thankful, but also it's kind of a weird thing to share with people sometimes, because you wonder, you don't know everyone's situation, and so it seems like it's one of those, like, oh man, we had the greatest time on vacation. Like, hey, good for you. They're like, yeah, nice to go, but you also don't want to create like make someone feel bad.
Yeah, Rochelle, at one of the places she was teaching, she had a fair amount of people that had means to do that kind of traveling. And at the beginning of every school year, what kids do, what did you do over summer break? And
yeah, of course.
And so she had one student that would make up the places that he and his family had gone to visit, because all the other kids were going to all these places. And it kind of hit kind of hard with, Rochelle didn't stop and correct him, or like, oh, I know you didn't go there, but it was just one of those things where you're like, oh, yeah. And so I feel a little self-conscious sometimes when I travel a little bit, because I know that it is, I know there's a lot of people who don't have that same opportunity. At the same time, I also know that I have friends that have traveled to places that I'm not probably going to be able to go, and I do love hearing about where they've been and what they've done, thinking about, well, maybe someday I'll be able to do that, or maybe my kids will go there or something, or whatever. But so I don't know. It's one of those. I think we have to be thoughtful, but I also think that, like I said, when I remember growing up back in the day when they were still using slideshows. Remember that? And
oh man,
do you remember travelogues? Do you remember that? Like, for those of you who have no idea, just Google that, I guess. But I love going to those things, man. Seeing places that other people had been, and thinking about that. So I don't know. I think we need to be careful and be thoughtful to not kind of be like, oh, I get to do this, and like everybody can do that. At the same time, I think there's also something to be said for, hey, we went and did this, and
I think vacation is maybe more of a state of mind. I mean, because we can ask, oh, where did you go? What cool thing did you do? But I think the important question is, do you feel refreshed? Are you coming back an enriched person that received something, while you were away? I mean, and that can happen at home also.
Sure.
You know?
I just think you have to be more intentional if you're staying home. It's a little bit harder because I think what gets you into a vacation mode is being outside of your normal everyday thing. And because when I do staycations, what winds up happening is I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put my phone away. I want to go ahead and then I don't, and I'm like, it'll only take 5 minutes. I'll go sit down at my desk and send out an email to him. And then I start thinking, oh my word, look at how my email box is filling up. If I could just go ahead and send a couple really. And I think that's the hard part, and it can actually be the hard part of a regular vacation.
I was just going to say, if I were in Paris, I would still have that problem. I wonder what's happening in my email inbox.
You know what though? I did not. I mean, there was a couple people that texted me, didn't realize. I put the vacation responder on, and I did not. I had the iPad for something I'm working on that I had to do was personal related, not work from here, and everyone was super cool about not reaching out, and so that was nice. And last night. When I got home, I opened up my email and I was like, "Oh boy,
5,000 emails."
Does your computer smoke?
Heather's did. It started to. She's like, "Do you have a backup drive? I think my computer's about to explode." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So but I feel like even and I think that's also finding what makes you happy. Like when Ken was posting pictures the week before, like the place that makes you happy, sitting, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and when we were coming back, we're like, oh. Like, and to your point earlier, we were like, man, do you remember how much fun we had the year before when we went to Chimney Rock, and all those places you were talking about that brought you're one of those people that can bring people to places that you find special and you hope they find something special in it. And for us, like avoiding the interstate as much as possible and seeing all these little towns and taking the time to stop and my girls love. Where do you think that goes? Well, let's turn and find out, and then we'll hook up with wherever we're supposed to go later. As long as everyone's okay with, there's snacks in the back. You're not getting any food for another hour. That's like an hour. And the only other thing is, for anyone listening, all my New Yorkers, my Pennsylvania people, what is the deal with no exits anywhere? You get on the turnpike and it's like, last gas stop, 179 miles, and you're like, wait, what?
That's hard, but West Coast is worse, dude. Have you been out there? Oh my word!
There's nothing, and you can't even go to the back. I mean, I'm not saying that anyone had to stop alongside the road and do whatever, but I'm just like, what? We've been going an hour, and there's like these exits. There's nothing, like nothing.
Oh, dude,
it was nuts. It was nuts.
We were traveling between Spokane and Seattle. And I remember there was like, it was like
she's lived there. She knows.
It's we're at like Moses Lake, and is the name
that
of
makes
this.
sense.
And,
is it?
And Rochelle's like, she's like, I'm a little bit hungry. I'm like, there is nothing at this exit. Let's just go a little bit further and see if we can find something decent to eat. There was nothing. Between Moses Lake and pretty much Seattle. It's probably the most trouble I've ever been in on a vacation. It's like 3 hours later, we're just going to go another exit, huh?
I think I saw blackberry bushes along that. I could have stopped and picked those, mister.
That's so fun. Actually, Moses Lake is where we used to go when we wanted to vacation.
Really?
Well, we had a ski boat. Of course, we vacationed a little bit differently. We didn't go stay in a park. We went and stayed on the back end of somebody's property next to the lake, and we dug our own latrine, and we did since we traveled so much, we had to make vacation special. So it was like,
get your exercise.
It was primitive.
Yeah. Nothing against primitive. I'm all down for, we'll do whatever anyone wants to do, and that was part of the fun of this trip, was that everyone just was like, oh, well, whose turn is it or whatever, and not necessarily that we were trying to keep score as to who did what that they wanted to do, but just that everyone was amicable, and man, we had a great time.
So I know you have 5,000 emails in your inbox. Did you see the podcast question that Haas sent us?
Oh, I knew I was missing one. Do you have it?
I do. You want me to read it to you?
Please do, because we're getting down to that part of the show.
Yeah, this was from an anonymous person, and Haas forwarded it on to us. It says, how is the ugly American traveler similar to the ugly Christian who expects others to believe in God the same way and act out their faith in the same way? And since I read it, Melanie has to answer it.
I would say there are a lot of similarities, actually. In fact, I was when you were talking about was it Adventist Frontier Missions that they go to a new place, but they can't actually talk to anybody until they've been there for 2 years.
Yeah.
I wonder how.
Talk about Jesus. That is, they're encouraged to talk to people. Just for the record.
Thanks for clarifying.
I was like, ooh, 2 years of no talking. That's not.
But I mean, I wonder what would happen if, when we made friends with people, we couldn't talk about our faith for 2 years.
Faith or politics?
Faith or politics for 2 years until we
Probably
knew
have
them
more friends.
that well.
Probably have. Yeah, I think your friend count would go up, but
because
also,
I really wonder how well do you know somebody's culture, even if they're your neighbor or they live across town, unless you've known them for a period of time. And also, I think it has to do with your motivations. Do you really want to be friends, or are you trying to proselytize?
I think there's a lot of people too that just want to have during their vacation, like when we were just in Savannah, there were people at the rooftop pool where everyone was hanging out, and with the kids, and met 5 or 6 families over the course of a couple of days where we knew them, the kids at least on a first name basis, and then try to match the parents with which ones were which, and some of them were not from the U.S. And I think some of it is just the same way we have families where, certain families are very quiet and, conversations are more muted. It's, we wait, we raise our hand, and then you come from another family where it's a free-for-all. And it's like, it's like WWE in the living room, who can out talk the other person in volume, and then you have the cross conversations that are happening, and somehow everyone learns how to get through. But to someone else, that would be absolute mayhem. So I also wonder just how much, when we're just not used to just somebody else's style as a family, let alone add all of the other things that we don't know about them, I think that plays a big part, because we either don't understand or we just haven't been exposed to it long enough to know, how do I take this person? But I think that's the flexibility, the good attitude. I think that comes in. That was maybe the best part of just reminding ourselves, like you're out and about, and of course moms are like, no crisscross applesauce at the table. We're in public. Sit like a lady. Okay. And then I'm over there with, can you take your elbows off? Oh, yeah, elbows off table. Yeah, don't do that. We're not at home. We do this. So everyone has a little bit of something different that they care about, or that they find, something we want to work on. So, but man, 2 years? That's a long time to go without. What if they ask? What are you supposed to say? I'm not allowed.
I'm sure if they ask, there's something to that. But I think that
just the overall.
I think that it's more about that mindset. Your mindset, and I think that would be one of the things I say too. To Melanie's point, what would happen if we were more interested in getting to know the person than pushing the agenda that we have? It's hard to get to know somebody when you are trying to drive a certain agenda with them, and that's what I love about what their process was just taking that time to really understand the people and the place, and that your job right now is to understand, to listen.
And when you think about the way that Americans often act, American exceptionalism, we're so amazing, we're so wonderful, we kind of look down on everyone else. I'm not saying that was a. Yeah, you know where I was going with that.
You're not saying we're not exceptional. It's more of the attitude.
Well, I think, there's also Christian exceptionalism. And I think paying attention to how we act when we're in other countries as tourists is the same attitude that we should take, paying attention to how we are, as Christians around. Because I think sometimes, I was with someone one time who is not involved with a church at all, and someone very well-meaning started talking about, those poor Buddhist people that are living in darkness, and we just need to bring Christ to them so that they can have happiness. And this person was like, wait a minute, I have plenty of Buddhist friends who are not lost in darkness and who are living very enriched, meaningful lives. What are you talking about? And so it just came across so unbelievably condescending.
Yeah.
And so I think being respectful of other people and just who they are and their own experiences and their journeys. And I think it is important. And I think it takes time. You know, I mean, there might be the occasional, you know, we just hit it off and wow, we're in a deep conversation. But I think it really takes time that you have to invest in people to understand what their journey is before you can enter into it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that when it's hard to not be excited about what you're excited about and what you want to share with people. I mean, those people that have that personality, it's tough because afterwards you can kind of look back and go, whoa, it was a little bit of a lawnmower there. Just gave them the cut, and then I came back for seconds and crossed them on the other side. And it's like, wow, I guess I was just really excited to share something that I thought they would enjoy. But like, if that's not what they're, you know, like you said, just if that's not an understanding there, or how to receive such information, if that's not something they're aware of or find interest in, that's a long conversation for the other person.
You know, one of the things I've discovered as a pastor, is a really good piece of advice that a conference president once told me. He said, whenever I move, I change my favorite sports teams. And it was an interesting kind of like, come on. He's like, no, he said, it's not that I don't have like the ones I grew up with. He said, but I become a fan of the sports team in the town that I'm in. He said, you know, and if my team's rooting against the one that in the town that I'm in, I'm very quiet. He said, because people are attached, and I've watched that happen. I've watched pastors not do well in churches simply because they never really truly moved, and they kept talking about the hometown they were from, how much better it was there, the weather is better, the sports teams are better, blah blah blah. And I've not been in a whole lot of places where people who are from there are like, oh yeah, that's cool. Most of the time people are like, wait a minute, why'd you move? Why'd you move? Go back if you like it so much better. I mean, and so I think that's one of the things to kind of keep in mind when you travel. Be a fan of where you're at.
Yeah.
Cheer on whatever's, you know. Yeah. If they play cricket there, it's hard. Figure it out. It's hard. Yeah. Trust me. I don't. You know, it's hard, but figure it out. Figure out what that is and talk to them about it. And you know, food's different.
Cheer the part of the game you understand.
Yeah,
just like when soccer, they kick a field goal and people go nuts, right? And we're all like, all right, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Cheer for the part you like. People will join you.
Like when the peanut guy comes around.
yes. No, exactly. You know, that's how people learn, and that's the fun. So it can be some fun parts to that too. But I hear what you're saying, that, you know, if you're always going to be that person, well, then maybe you should have.
And there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a fan. Like you're always going to be a Wisconsin fan.
Sure.
That's fine. But it's another thing when you're just actively.
Well, 13 World Championships just speaks for itself. So I can't really. I mean, it's hard to.
And the other good news for you is that Orlando doesn't really have a football team, right?
Florida doesn't really have a football.
Oh,
was that outside? Was that outside voice? I am deeply sorry. I might go back and delete that just so that I don't have, you know, something on my
Randy
car,
at Whole Life Dutch Church.
No.
In the north parking lot.
You can't hurt my truck, though. Just don't leave my wife's car alone, please. No. I just thought that the travel was an interesting one to tackle, but also putting that back into a context where it's something we can apply even to our daily lives, where we're interacting with people, especially here in Orlando. I mean, there are people from all over the world that are here every single day that we interact with. So I thought it was a unique choice. And I was like, but I also thought it was really fun, the way that we brought everything through. Yeah. So we have 2 emails to get to before we wrap things up. First one, you may recognize. Hey, Randy. I really connected with Ken's message this last Sabbath. It's good to know that if we don't always feel at home wherever we are on earth, at least we know we are traveling to our ultimate home in heaven. And though we may not always understand why we are where we are or the reason for our constant journey, it will be a great experience if we trust Him to carry us through. And as always, I'm keeping the Whole Life family in my prayers. Thank you, Carolina Dave. And one more. While listening to this week's podcast, it struck me the contrast Yeah, it struck me the contrast between the last 2 weeks' politics. There's an effort to raising anxiety and to have us in a state of worry because many of the actors believe that will bring results for them. God wants us to be in nature to bring us peace and relaxation, and I couldn't agree more. I was in more nature. So thank you, Mel, for that email. And I couldn't agree more. Every day we're like, why are we so tired? Why are we so tired? Because you're outside for 8 hours a day, most days or longer. And most days if you're at work, you're just inside. You don't get as much exercise. You don't get as much fresh air. You're not. You're doing different types of things, and it was pleasantly exhausting.
Nice.
So,
I like that.
Yeah,
Pleasantly exhausting.
so get back into the peace and relaxation of nature. That was good. All right, that was it for this series. Right? It's over.
It's done. Time to get to work.
Time to get to work.
Time to get to work.
Lucas, don't tell me you. See, now here's the thing. Lucas always knows because Lucas is working ahead with Ken now, and so when I'm like trying to think to myself, and I'm like, who I should ask Ken? I'm like, I can just ask Lucas. Lucas, what's upcoming, my friend?
Get to work series. Be ready.
What? Be ready.
Hope you guys are rested from the last series.
Yeah, the summer off. Now we're going to get to work.
Time to crack down on all this relaxation and get back to work. So get back to work.
Yeah.
Although
All right.
we should do a little promo for the following series because that's only
What?
a few weeks away.
That's true too.
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing a series on work. So this week we're going to talk about viewing work as worship, as an act of worship. So rather than
That only
viewing
happens
it
when
as
you work at a church.
well, I guess we'll talk about that this Sabbath, and we'll come back on podcast and
Get your questions ready now.
yeah, and then after that we're going to talk about motivation at work, and then after that we're talking about something I can't remember.
Leading and following.
Leading and following, yeah. And that one of the things that we want to talk about is that we're having a leadership conference here. By the way, if you haven't signed up, not too late. It's
Still time.
as long as you're listening to this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
or Thursday morning, just drive straight here. But
Do we take cash?
we do cash and check if you come on Thursday and
morning.
Friday.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about leading and following, and talking about knowing how to be a good follower is just as important as being a good leader. And maybe you can't really be a good leader until you know how to be a good follower. So we'll talk about that. And then the final sermon in the series is going to be by Anderling. She's going to be talking about
that's right. Yeah.
service. Work is service.
Work is service.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so
And then Melanie mentioned
we
what's that?
have the series after that, and this is where we need your help, is that time of the year where you get to try to it's why doesn't Ken ever preach about this? Or boy, I'd love to hear a sermon on that. Or I wonder how Ken will dodge and weave on this one. So whatever it is, you go ahead and send it to Melanie at wholelife.church, and
Hold on,
she'll
Melanie,
go ahead and
how do you spell prophecy?
prophecy at PRF, I think PRFECY
SY?
or something like I don't know, something like that.
Sounds looks like apostasy.
I apparently don't preach on it very often, so it's hard for me to know how to spell it. So
Send us your hardest questions.
yes, so
Yeah.
Came into her best shot.
So what happens is Melanie gets them, she looks at them. Sometimes she takes and kind of smushes them together into like multiple questions into one question.
Yeah, if we have several that are really similar,
Yeah.
then I'll,
Yeah.
and then sometimes, so we get a bunch of questions. So she just kind of goes through and
This
looks
is a
at 'em.
good series.
Yeah, it's a
This
fun
might
one.
be my
Great
second.
question.
This might be my second favorite. I mean, I always love we get to meet people with the voices of whole life, but trying to stump Ken.
And then
it's
you
kinda
can
fun.
tune in every week and see the look on Ken's face when he
Face,
finds out
I wonder-
what he's preaching on the following week.
I wonder if do I get a mulligan? Is there like one where I no, not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Because you don't find out until
I
it's
know.
like these now. Funkin'
Yeah, it's like some of the hardest sermons of the year, and I only get a week to prepare for them.
These are
Spend a lot of time in
sealed.
prayer, Ken.
I've already started.
Hermetically sealed in an envelope inside a mason's jar on Funkin' front porch since noon the previous day. So they will not be known only to you. Well, only to you, pointing at
Right.
Melanie, and then to you, pointing to
Yes.
Ken. That's fun. That's fun. All right. Well, anything else we missed? Travel, do it, have fun,
Yeah,
be nice,
be nice.
ask questions, listen.
Listen.
Listen. I was going to mention that before because Anderline really maybe brought out the best part about listening this morning in our staff meeting, and that probably would have been a good one to end. So Ed, listen, don't talk so much. Shut up, Randy.